Hey there, my name is Zacharias, and I've had an itch to make a video critiquing what is, to me at least, a large problem with the RuneScape free leagues. Before I get into that, however, I just want to lead off by saying that I love RuneScape. I play RuneScape free, I play OSRS, I love both of them, especially the leagues. I've played all of them, and ever since the first one, I really wanted the leagues to come to RuneScape free, because I wanted to see what they could do with the format. So, with that in mind, I want to be clear that my goal with this video is basically a Hail Mary to improve future leagues by trying to clearly explain what I think is wrong with the current league's combat and why, and hey, maybe toss in a quick suggestion about how I'd fix it. That said, the super TLDR version of my critique is basically that all of the combat relics are way too weak, but in a kind of weird way where they're actually super strong when you first acquire them. The problem is that they just become progressively weaker and weaker the further along the PVM upgrade path you get, until you're deriving very little benefit from them at all, and only slightly better than a main game account. Okay, so how I'd like to approach this is by trying to illustrate the difference between this league's combat and an OSRS league's combat to people who haven't played any OSRS leagues, or maybe even OSRS at all. I'll do this by first comparing some combat relics side by side, and then by straight up comparing some boss kills side by side to hopefully demonstrate what I mean. Let's start by comparing both games' main combat relics, the combat style focused ones, side by side to see how they differ, because it is ultimately my belief that this is where most of the issue comes from. Now, I do want to just quickly preface this by saying that I promise you, kind viewer, that I understand OSRS and RS3 are not the same game, and that what worked in OSRS would not necessarily work in RS3. I am not going to advocate for just copying and pasting over OSRS relics. Promise. So, for this, we're going to compare RuneScape Free's melee relic Barbarism with OSRS's Trailblazer Reloaded relic Brawler's Resolve. This is Barbarism. You can pause if you want to see everything it does, but I especially want to fixate on double adrenaline, cooldown reduction, hit chance, and melee based damage. Let's get the little ones out of the way, CDR and double adrenaline. I have no idea how much damage these are worth. It's definitely not nothing, but I, for one, cannot tangibly feel this low amount of CDR when I'm playing. The double adrenaline, on the other hand, feels pretty fun to play with. But these two together, how much DPS do they give? Do they give 10% DPS? 20%? I have no idea. It gives some amount and the adrenaline feels good. That's all that really matters for the purposes of this argument. The melee based damage bonus, on the other hand, the common consensus on this is that when you're in full best in slot, this comes out to be like a 20% damage increase. I think that basically tracks with my experience. I do want to take the time to point out that the worse your gear is, and the lower your levels are when you get this, the better it will feel. It'll always give 500 base damage, but that means substantially more when your ability damage is like 200 versus when it's above 2000. The accuracy is similar, but worse. Again, when you first get it, because of how accuracy works in RS3, this can represent like a 200% damage increase. You roll up to Bandos with a Dragon Halberd, given the good stuff and gear way scruffier than anything you'd use in the main game, and you think to yourself, damn, this is great. If I'm this strong now, I wonder how strong I'll be at T7 with full best in slot. And oh no, that's where the problems start to arise. Again, because of how accuracy works in RuneScape Free, generally speaking, this huge DPS increase you initially experience in going from 40% to 100% accuracy trickles down to literally nothing in the endgame, as you're already 100% accurate against the vast majority of enemies in the late game. At least the base damage always does something, whereas this ends up doing literally nothing. So how it plays out is you first take this relic, and you're doing 3 to 5 times more damage on bosses than you would normally, and it feels insane. Then, as you get more and more upgrades and levels, the relic gives less and less increased damage, until finally in the late game, where your 3 to 500% DPS multiplier is now, what, like 20 to 30%? Let's compare with OSRS. So this is Brawler's Resolve, and there sure are a lot of words here, but I want to focus on what's relevant to our discussion. Double, or better, attack speed, 50% more accuracy, 10% chance to deal double damage. So, just trying to convert this to RS3, double or better attack speed in OSRS might as well read as double or better damage. Just imagine if every time you hit an ability in RS3, it hit twice. That's basically what this boils down to mechanically. The 50% more accuracy in OSRS is just as relevant when you first get it as it is in the Ultra endgame, because unlike in RS3, you basically never get to 100% accuracy in OSRS. It doesn't represent a 50% damage increase, but it basically always represents some level of multiplier on your DPS. And 10% chance to deal double damage, we can actually just math out to be an overall 10% DPS increase on average. Do you see the difference? Every factor of the OSRS relic is a multiplier on your DPS, and they all work together whether you're in beginner or in game gear. You always feel Omega powerful compared to the main game, whereas in RS3 it's kind of the opposite. It starts out as this almost false promise where you're similarly Omega strong, but as you get more gear, the damage you're getting from accuracy falls to literally nothing, and the percentage damage to your DPS from the base damage also gets lower and lower as over time it represents a smaller and smaller fraction of your overall ability damage. Going from 40% accuracy to 100% accuracy is huge. Going from 100 to 100 is nothing. Going from 400 damage to 900 is huge. Going from 2300 to 2800 is, well, it's not nothing. To illustrate this more clearly, I just want to show some quick side-by-sides. I wanted to pick a quickish, simple-ish boss in both games with a similar kill time and good gear in the main game. I went with hard mode Vindicta in RS3, and then to match its kill time, I killed Zabak in OSRS on a bunch of different enrage amounts until I got close enough to the Vindicta kill timer. These were both basically 90-second kills in the main game with good gear. Now, just before I show the videos, I want you to ask yourself, how much faster should these kills be in a league? 10% faster? 20%? For me, I really think our damage should be at an absolute bare minimum double in a league. I think kills should be twice as fast. So, 90 seconds in the main game, I want to be killing it in 45 seconds or less in the league, or I'm probably not thrilled. So, let's look at our Vindicta kills. On the left we have the main game, I'm using Necro here, pretty good gear, best in slot perks. On the right is my league setup, rocking melee with basically everything except Havoc rolls because I am not farming Zamorak in this league. Now, as we can clearly see in the video, I am not the world's greatest PVMer, and that's fine. The point isn't, oh my god, look at these sick kills. The point is, as I said, knowing that the main game kill is going to clock in at about 90 seconds long, why the heck is he still not even close to dead in the league's video right now? Now, the kill times wind up being 1 minute 28 seconds in the main game, and 1 minute 9 seconds in the leagues. That represents a grand total of about a 30% DPS increase in the leagues. Brother, what are we doing here? I think you genuinely need to be really familiar with the game to even tell that the one on the right is a League's character. Now, let's compare this to OSRS. Again, on the left we have main game close to best in slot, magic here, and then on the right we're rocking range, pretty much best in slot in the leagues. I do want to note that I'm not using any of the end tier OSRS relics in this kill, like I'm not dying to trigger my Omega Last Stand, I'm not using the Horn to get my buddy to come help out, and I'm not using any special attacks to utilize the Specialist relic. I'm just DPSing him down ethically with auto attacks. And once again, I just want to draw your attention at the difference between these clips. Even if you had never played OSRS, you could still easily tell which one is League's character. This is the power fantasy that's missing from the RS3 leagues. Normal, everyday players should be smashing world record kill timers, outside of those like absolutely crazy pre-built one-shot shenanigans. But just like rocking up to a boss in your gear, you should be crushing GM kill timers at the very least. I'm not going to waste your time waiting for the main game to finish this kill, I think the point is already made, but I do want to just quickly slip in this melee kill version that actually uses the OSRS League Specialist relic to get an even faster kill, to try and just drive the point further home. So, how would I fix things if I could? Honestly, I think the easiest fix for this league would have been to just slam a double damage passive into the T7 passives. I genuinely thought something like this was bound to happen when more people got to late game PvM builds and found they were barely better than the main game. Going forward with other leagues, honestly, I'd get rid of the 100% accuracy completely on all the combat relics and just slam double damage in there as a baseline instead going forward. You'd still get a great power spike when you initially got the relic, but it would also scale into the late game since you'd always be doubling your damage. I understand you'd run into slight diminishing returns during ultimates with the 30k damage hit cap, but I'd rather have the problem of hitting the damage cap too often than being underwhelmed by my power level. In closing, I'd like to say that it shouldn't be the case that some people chose the Necromancy relic, for example, and then find themselves unable to kill Raziel. Like, sure, if this was the main game, I'd probably be saying, yeah, that sucks, but it's kind of a skill issue. No, this is freaking Leagues. This is the we are the gods and the enemies cower before us mode. This is not a skill issue, this is a Leagues issue. If you are incapable of killing Raziel, or hard mode Zuck, or 1k Telos or whatever in the main game, League should be where you get to come, farm some gear, get some god mode powers, and smack those bosses around. I'd also like to say that I do believe some of my personal frustration with these, in comparison with, say, quest skips for example, is that Gmods have been super forthcoming about those. They even managed to sort of patch some of them in. So while I obviously think quest skips should have been in from the very start, it's not something that super worries me going forward because the communication has been clear. Our bad, we'll get in something for the next one 100%, right? So all good there. But that's just not the case with combat, it's absolute cricket chirps. The closest I've seen is communication that maybe range or mage was weaker than it should have been, and that is a huge alarm for me because, in my opinion, and hopefully as I've shown, every combat style is weak as heck. So for me, I'm worried about future RuneScape free leagues because I'm concerned that when the next league rolls around, everything might be slightly buffed to be around where melee is now, and that's just not good enough or fun enough in my opinion. This is a temporary power fantasy game mode. There's basically no point to it when you take away the power fantasy. But yeah, that's my spiel. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think, so let me know.